Welcome to Off the Record News. I'm your host, Diana Longrie. Thank you for tuning in. Off the Record News is brought to you live from the SCC studios out of White Bear Lake. And through a cooperative agreement, this program is also simultaneously broadcast to those studios out of the Roseville viewing area, the CTV studios. As a result of this cooperative effort, this program reaches out to and serves live approximately 28 communities in the Northeast metropolitan area. Now, we also are rebroadcast at other dates and times at other channels and other studios. So if you happen to be watching this program on a date other than our live broadcast, which is March 19th, 2014, well, unfortunately, you won't be able to call in with any questions you might have either for myself or my guest. However, I'm available 24/7 on Facebook. So if you're watching a rebroadcast or after you're done watching this live broadcast, you have questions or, better yet, you have a show topic or idea that you think should be here on Off the Record News, please get a hold of me and we'll get it on the air. Now, this evening, I think you're really going to enjoy our program. It is a story that has been in the news on and off for over a year. It has finally come to a conclusion of not guilty. So I have with me a young gentleman, Andrew Henderson, who has gone through the trials and tribulations of being just a regular citizen doing what the Constitution allows him to do. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Andrew to the program. Thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Diana.
Yes. Now, why don't you tell our viewers, first of all, a little bit about who you are, and then let's tell them the beginning of, how you became interested in being an involved citizen in your community, and then what led to the incident where actually you had to defend yourself against charges of obstructing legal process and disorderly conduct.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in the St. Paul, Como Park, North End area. I went to school at Como High School and graduated from St. Paul Technical College in welding. After that, I lived in St. Paul for a little bit, lived in Shoreview for a little bit, and now reside in Little Canada.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I know that from some of our discussions previous to the program that you have been very involved in I'd like to say being a watchdog in your community. I don't know if that's the way you would like to phrase it or not, but to me, a watchdog is a very positive position for a citizen to take, because after all, who else in our community is going to be looking out really after the rights of themselves and other citizens, if but for the citizen watchdogs, because they're the ones who really are out there keeping track of what's going on. So tell our viewers a little bit about, your viewpoints on this and what you've been doing lately.
Sure. Well, what really got me started in this is while living in the North End area of St. Paul, a few blocks from where I was living, a gentleman was pepper sprayed, kicked in the chest, and then thrown in a police car and pepper sprayed in the ear. I found that as a complete abuse of power. At that point in time, I figured I should start watching public employees, especially the police, because of that misconduct.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that oftentimes, citizens are thinking that by asking questions of the policies and procedures of our police force, that somehow they are indicating that they are not pro police force, and that's not correct at all, is it?
Not at all. I respect police officers incredibly. I mean, they have a tough job to do. I just want to make sure that they follow the rules and do it ethically.
Mm-hmm. And I think that police forces are well served also by having good policies and procedures that they follow. And being an attorney, certainly I know the importance of having the proper policy and procedures when it comes to evidence, because there's something called the chain of evidence, that if you go to trial and evidence is being produced to, especially in a criminal trial, to show, tend to show somebody's guilt or innocence, you have to be able to say, well, where did this evidence come from? Where has it been stored? How has it been handled? Is it authentic? Has it been tampered with? And all of these issues actually came up in your case somewhat. I mean, certainly that was, I think, a big issue in many respects as to how you got to the point where you were.
Definitely, yes.
Yes. So tell our viewers how the incident that led to the final trial, how it happened, when it happened. I mean, it wasn't like it was just yesterday.
No, it was actually almost 16 months ago, yeah.
Okay. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I came home from work one night and noticed 2 squad cars outside of my apartment building. As I was entering the building, I asked one of the Ramsey County deputies what was going on, and she said no crime. And I found it, interesting that there was 2 squad cars for no crime. At that point in time, I was going to have a cigarette before I retired for the evening. I realized I didn't have my cigarettes on me. Went back to my truck. At this point in time, an ambulance showed up and went inside, and I had a seat on the bench by the front door of the apartment building. And I was just sitting there smoking a cigarette, and then 2 deputies, 2 EMS workers, and an individual walked out the front door of my apartment building. The gentleman they were leading said hello to me. I said hello to him. They led him towards the ambulance about 35 feet away, and they began to frisk him. And I thought that was interesting for an ambulance call. I've never seen that before, and I've seen people being put in ambulances before. And I pulled out my video camera and started recording. The man was frisked. He smoked a cigarette. I couldn't understand what was being said at 35 feet away with a diesel engine of an ambulance running. And they put him in the back of an ambulance. At that point in time, one of the deputies walked up to me, asked me what I was doing. I said filming, and she took the camera right out of my hand and said she didn't want to end up on YouTube.
Yes, and I think it's important to, again, reiterate to the viewers that you were sitting on a bench outside the door of your apartment building, which is a bench that's intended for residents of the apartment building, correct?
Correct, yes.
So what's wrong with all of that?
Well, one of the ambulance crew members stated that I was 3 to 5 feet away, and I was filming as they were walking out, which was really interesting to me, and stated that they conducted a medical assessment right in front of me and were upset because I was there filming.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now, for our viewers, you had the foresight that when your camera was confiscated and taken from you without reason, without a warrant, that you had the presence of mind to record the conversation, correct?
I did. I used my cell phone to record the audio conversation that took place between me and the sheriff's deputies.
And you see, with all the wonderful gizmos that we have in our pockets nowadays, we as citizens, we actually have more tools in our toolbox to potentially protect ourselves than we have ever had before.
Definitely.
Because with the old phones, old cell phones, you wouldn't have been able to do that, but with today's phones, you can now do that. And I think it's important for folks who are watching this to think to themselves, well, gee, if I need to record something do I have the ability to do that? And as long as they are part of that conversation, they can record a conversation. In Minnesota, that is allowable, correct?
That is correct, yes. Minnesota is a one-party consent state.
Yes, and a lot of people don't realize that.
They don't know.
So I found a little film clip that I would like to show our viewers, if that's okay with you, that shows a little bit more of the details and also talks about then some of the charges and some of the allegations. So should we show that now?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at clip number 1.
Your press today. It's about a guy who was filming some police work.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And had a sheriff's deputy come over out of the blue in the middle of performing this police work and confiscating his video camera.
I'm Andrew Henderson. On October 30th, 2012, I had my camera taken away from me by the Ramsey County Sheriff's officers for filming in a public location.
I grew up inner city. You know, you see things that police do, and it sticks in your head. And as I've gotten older, I've become more proactive about it. I wouldn't call myself an activist by any means. I just do it when I can. When I see something, I film something.
I was charged with disorderly conduct and obstruction of justice. The whole time during the incident, I was sitting on a bench at least 30 feet away from the scene until Jackie Molnar came up and snatched the camera from my hand. Fortunately, I was recording audio on my cell phone, which captured part of the incident.
The following audio was taken from a 4-minute clip Andrew recorded. They are in order.
We'll take this for evidence, and then you can talk to an investigator.
You just took my camera.
What's your name?
I'm not giving you my name if I'm not being detained.
Well,
I don't have to give you my name.
Evidence,
You're taking my camera. I'm doing a lawful thing right now. Filming is legal.
Okay, but if I end up on YouTube, I'm going to be upset.
Can I get a receipt for that?
I'll give you my name and case number, yeah. That's about it.
Alright, you unlawfully took a video camera from me. Can I have your badge number?
Note that Andrew is talking to Jackie Molnar's colleague, who, though he admitted he didn't claim that Andrew's filming was illegal, sat by and did nothing as his partner stole Andrew's property.
561? Alright. Nothing I'm doing is illegal.
I didn't think it was illegal.
Huh?
I didn't think it was illegal.
No, you didn't. I know you didn't. You didn't say that it was illegal or anything. But it is legal, and you're taking away my your partner is taking away my private property when I'm doing a legal act.
I was well within my rights to film that interaction.
The next day, Andrew went to the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office to retrieve his camera.
I'm here to pick up property that was taken from me last night.
Yeah, so I understand that you had a complaint about a call that came in last night. Your device was taken?
Yes, it was.
What were the circumstances of it? Because we're not aware. We're looking for reports. There isn't any.
Filming and Deputy
Molnar.
Molnar.
Jackie, you guys?
Took away my video camera in clear violation of my First Amendment rights.
Okay, why did she take it? What were the circumstances?
I was just sitting on a bench filming outside of my residence.
Up until you showed up, I had no idea about this call or anything about it.
Andrew learned that there wasn't even a report filed about his camera being taken. 2 weeks later, Andrew returned and tried to get the police report about the incident. Instead, they told him to wait until court, where things would be sorted out.
Can get resolved in court if it has to go that far, but you know, you can always talk to the city attorney about this and dismiss charges after like 1 year or something like that. Something that would be a reasonable agreement amongst all parties involved.
Right. Well, I'm going to plead innocent.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't feel
that is certainly
I don't
your
feel
right.
that I did anything wrong. I found out through the police report that Deputy Molnar not only tried to go through my camera, but also brought it home with her overnight before bringing it back to the sheriff's office.
That alone is a clear violation of the chain of custody that she supposedly knows about, having worked for 3 decades as a Ramsey County Sheriff's deputy. When Andrew finally did get his camera back, the footage was deleted.
Here in Minnesota, we have Data Practice Act requests. I filed a Data Practice Act request to the City of Little Canada to find out how much money has already been spent on my case. The total so far is $5,500.
Kudos to Andrew for making his situation public and for being so thorough. He not only got coverage in the local print and radio media, but also on copblock.org, Photography is Not a Crime, and elsewhere. All that attention eventually brought him some legal help.
I am grateful to be able to announce that the Minnesota American Civil Liberties Union has decided to take on my legal defense. My trial is scheduled for the week of the 18th of February, 2014, but it has been postponed in the past. I've had 2 different prosecutors, 4 different judges, and the case has lasted over a year. And we'll see if it happens this time. If you'd like to help me in this matter, I urge you to call the City of Little Canada, the prosecuting attorney, Kevin Back, and Judge Alshouse, and voice your concern about the taxpayers' money being spent on this case. I have a clear conscience, and I'm at peace with my actions. I acted lawfully. First Amendment principles and federal case law establish that a constitutional right. And while doing so, I did not act disorderly, nor did I obstruct a legal process.
What reasonable expectation of privacy does a copper have in public? The answer is none.
I encourage you all to keep filming. Even if you see someone else filming, help out. The content you capture might be their best witness. Better yet, get a streaming app.
So Andrew, you know, when I'm listening to that, there are several things that strike me.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, when you went in to try to reclaim your camera, they said that they weren't aware of the incident, that it had happened. However, when you paused in giving the name of the deputy that was responsible,
Mm-hmm.
they conveniently filled in the name. Ironic.
Well,
or just by chance.
I did have a receipt that she gave me,
Okay.
a piece of paper with her badge number on it, and that's how they
Oh, I
filled
see.
it in.
Okay,
Yes.
so that was visible for them.
Yes.
Okay, so because that was a question that crossed my mind, and it could have crossed some of the minds of some of the viewers too, wondering, well, why did they pull that name out of the air? Well, that would explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about chain of custody, again, that was touched upon in this video, the necessary chain of custody, that if there was indeed something valuable in the film footage, that film footage should have been brought to the law enforcement center. It should have been booked in. It should have been put in the property room, and that there's a whole procedure for all of this, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. And the fact that it was brought home to a private residence where who knows really what happened to it. Anybody could have looked at it. Anybody could have touched it. And in the end, it turned out it was erased, correct?
Correct. And what concerns me most about that is how many times has that deputy done this to other cases?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure I wasn't the first.
Right. And also then in looking at this video, they also talked about the fact that then eventually you did have legal counsel.
Yes.
And so tell us, you know, how did that all, I mean, how were you so fortunate? How did that all work out like that?
Well, the day after it happened, I actually submitted a request to the Minnesota ACLU to help me with legal stuff for the case.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear back from them for a little bit, but after it made the news, I got a phone call the next day from them, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I think that points out a very big issue for many citizens who are active in their community, who are questioning policies and procedures, who are just watching out for what's happening in their communities. Some might call them watchdogs. Some of them might call them political activists. You know, there might be any number of names for folks who are serving in that capacity. But when something like this comes up and they are put in the position where they have to defend themselves, they are unable to do so because they do not have a lot of money
No.
in order to hire attorneys, in order to have the proper defense. And I know that with some of the discussion that went on between you and the deputy when you were trying to get the camera returned to you, in the clip that we just saw now, that they actually edited it down some to make it shorter. But in looking at the full length of that audio recording that you had, there were very key parts of what he said that I think really ring true to this issue of citizens when they find themselves in this position. Then they are told, well, come to a reasonable agreement, which means take a plea.
Right.
And we do have the excerpt from that longer length of audio that we're going to play that will show that to our viewers so that they can see that a citizen like yourself, or could be any one of our viewers if they were to find themselves in that position, that's what they're faced with. How can you hire an attorney to defend yourself when you know you're not guilty of anything, and yet, you know.
Right. Well, it's not just that. It's also taking that much time off of work.
Yes.
I mean, I probably went to court 9 or 10 times during this process, and I mean, most people can't afford to take that much time off of work.
And I guess from my perspective, oftentimes it almost seems like it's set that way to wear you down so that you get tired of it. And so eventually you'll just say, oh, I'm done with this. You know what would be the problem with me taking a plea and just saying, okay, I won't do anything the same or similar, and it'll just all go away in a year.
Right. Well,
now, what's the harm in that,
yeah.
right? But certainly I would, as an attorney, tell folks you should never do that if you really believe you're innocent.
Right.
So, because sometimes it can come back to haunt you.
Yes.
It certainly can. Now, I understand that we have a caller on the line.
All right.
So let's take their call. Caller, thank you very much. Questions or comments?
Andrew, congratulations on your victory. You might not know it, but your victory is bigger than just yourself. It's a big victory for freedom. So thanks for hanging in there and doing the fight. Hey, the other thing, I read that Pioneer Press article that when you had your victory, and I'm happy that the ACLU attorney represented you, but I was disappointed he called you a hobbyist. I call you a patriot, somebody who did great service to your community and to your country. So I was a little troubled by how he said you were just a hobbyist, because I think what you represent, what you did for free and for freedom was a lot bigger than that. So again, thank you. What's really troubling is that also is not only did that sheriff who grabbed your camera illegally, took it home, took it in her bed, and destroyed the content, violating all first principles of police procedure, but even bigger than that, that sheriff should have the next day apologized to you. And then after that, if she couldn't get the energy to apologize, her supervisor should have made her apologize. And even after that, if the sheriff's department, I'm talking about the sheriff himself, Bostrom should have apologized to you. You know, they weren't looking for a remedy. And then after that, the prosecutor of Little Canada should apologize to you. The city manager should apologize to you. And the city council should have put a stop to it. And none of these guys did anything. They let them harass you and defame you. And you deserve compensation for what all these political elites did to you. And that's a sad tragedy. So I do appreciate you hanging in there despite all this. Now, my question to you is that, you know, I believe that all the residents of Little Canada should have their property tax raised, so they should pay you for the harms that your city council did to the freedom of somebody like yourself. But I know those U.S. federal judges are all hostile to people who take part in film, the government and film police, and generally those federal judges dismiss a lawsuit that comes forward. So I don't know. What's the next course? I appreciate Mayor Longrie, you publicizing this more, because that's just a tragedy that was there to intimidate all kinds of people. Now, I'm wondering, has there been any apology? Has anybody acknowledged they did you great harm and they did freedom great harm? Thank you.
As of yet, no, nobody has apologized.
And I'd have to say, well, I think certainly a number of apologies probably are in order. I think the caller is over-optimistic to think that any apologies will be given whatsoever. And that, but the caller did mention something about that, you know, this type of action against a citizen such as yourself is intimidating to other citizens as well. And it's meant, I believe, to be that way, to chill other citizens from becoming active, because they don't want to have to go through the same thing. Oh my God, did you hear about that guy? You know, and I know that a client that I had, he had a city, Maplewood, that put a harassment restraining order, temporary harassment restraining order against him, simply because he was exercising a First Amendment right. And he was in a similar situation. Do you defend yourself and spend money to defend yourself, or do you just take a no contest and just say, okay, I'll just stay away from City Hall for a year or two or whatever you say, so that, you know, I can just keep the peace. Except that the moment that that happens, then it sets a precedent, so that then that policy as a governmental entity can be used again on the next guy, because it now has become more acceptable. It's happened, we could do it with one, we can do it with another, we can do it with another. And it becomes much more acceptable, and then it's a slippery slope, and that's the way I believe. And so that's why it's important for you to have done what you did, to say not guilty, and go through the entire process and hang in there. In the same way with the gentleman who was successful in defending against the temporary restraining order. It was found that the city didn't meet the burden they had to meet, and so it was dismissed. But you see, that's what has to be done.
Right.
Yeah. Now we have the audio that I had promised that is clip 2. So let's play that, because this then is when you went back to the Sheriff's Department to collect your camera. And so this is part of that conversation, but I think it is so telling listening to the deputy tell you what his opinion is of the interaction that went on between you and the deputy who took your camera, because now all of our viewers, they've heard that audio that you had of what happened between you and the deputy who took the camera. What was the conversation? Now we're going to hear what a different deputy thinks was that conversation. And keep in mind, he was never there. And how he's trying to convince you, even at that early stage, that you should take a plea bargain. So let's take a look and listen to clip number 2.
2 weeks later, I went down to the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office to try to purchase a copy of the incident report, to try to figure out what exactly I did that was illegal. Here's the audio of that.
Am I able to purchase a copy of the report today?
No, not today.
Why not?
They'll release it to you. And eventually you're going to get access to this anyway once you go to court.
I understand that, yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know what I'm being accused of. Did I swear at her? Did I molest her in any way? Did I?
No, I think what they felt was that you were interfering with someone's privacy that was having a mental health breakdown.
Okay.
And they felt that you were being a Budinsky by getting that camera in there and partially recording what was going on in this situation that you were not directly involved in, and that they felt that you were interfering in that situation. That, you know, it's a crisis situation where, you know, where you and me are talking normal and having a decent conversation, and if you have some mental health issues, all of a sudden, you know, the left springs out of the brain, and, you know, because that guy is recording our situation, and things can spiral out of control real quick. And I think that's what was getting the officer upset, was was that I think she might have asked you to stop recording.
No.
And you refused?
No, she actually came up, took the camera out of my hand,
Yeah.
and said she didn't want to be on YouTube. Would you like to hear the audio of it?
Well, you can bring that up in court.
Yeah.
And it does mention something about YouTube in there, so.
Yeah.
And, you know, you gotta have a little bit of respect for, you know,
The thing
other
is,
people's
it's
personal.
a public place.
I understand that.
You know, and it's totally legal to record in a public place.
You know, I think if you would have had, had a, just a cordial conversation with the officer, that, that might have, if you would have just, agreed to stop filming.
Oh, if she would have asked me and said it's a mental health, I would have stopped. But,
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's a disagreement amongst people that can get resolved
Yeah.
In court if it has to go that far. But you can always talk to the city attorney about this and give him your point of view on that situation.
Right.
And hopefully, the city prosecutor will see it your way. And it's possible that this could be state imposition or agree to dismiss charges after like 1 year or something like that. Something that would be a reasonable agreement amongst all parties involved.
Right. Well, I'm going to plead innocent.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't feel
that is certainly
I don't
in your
feel
right.
that I did anything wrong.
Okay.
Now I have to defend myself in a court of law against criminal charges of obstructing justice and disorderly conduct for simply exercising my First Amendment right.
Okay, so you were charged because you were a Budinsky.
That's right.
Okay, heaven forbid that you were a Budinsky. And during that initial conversation, you know what? That word never came up once, did it?
No.
No, and yet here you are trying to collect your camera, and you're being told that's the characterization of what is going on. So it implies that there's been a lot of discussion somewhere in the back room over the water cooler about this incident, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so.
Yes, because now they've got it characterized as how you were and who you are, which is very fascinating to me. Also, the characterization of somebody who was having a mental health episode, I find very fascinating. Very how he characterizes them, that when they're left springs out of their brain. Well, that seems a little unfeeling as well.
I agree.
So there is so much in all of that.
Yes.
Now, so at this point, had you been charged?
Yes, I was charged. I was charged with disorderly conduct and obstruction of justice. The obstruction of justice was for actually violating HIPAA.
Oh, I see.
Yes, that was the original charge. And the disorderly conduct was because I would not give my name to the officer.
I see. So as a private citizen who doesn't have access to medical data, how can you violate HIPAA?
That's a good question. I think many attorneys were trying to figure that out when it came out in the paper.
Because I'm not a HIPAA attorney, and I don't really practice in that area of statutory compliance, but I believe that according to the statutes that it clearly identifies who is subject to the HIPAA regulations, and I don't think it's a private individual.
No, it's not.
I think it's people who are in various medical fields that handle medical data.
Right.
And that wouldn't be you now, would it?
No, not at all.
So did they eventually drop that charge?
After it hit mainstream news in the Pioneer Press, they switched it to interfering with the ambulance crew.
I see.
Because they found out that the HIPAA law did not apply to me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. So, but you were 30 feet away from the ambulance crew.
That's right.
Okay. And so how did they make the leap between you being on the bench 30 feet away from the ambulance with interfering with the ambulance crew?
Well, 3 months after the incident, they interviewed the ambulance crew and the gentleman that they were escorting out of the building. And they stated that I was 3 to 5 feet away from them.
I see.
Yes, and that's how the interfering with the ambulance crew got involved.
I see. Okay. Okay. And I'm certain that anybody, if they were to take a look at that bench and the sidewalk and where the street curb is, what would they clearly see?
Well, they'd see a lot of distance and a lot of pavement between that bench and where an ambulance could park.
Right. Well, and now, you know, I know that many of the police officers have deck cameras in their vehicles. Now, do ambulances have those also?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, I see. Because wouldn't it be fascinating if they had one hidden there in the ambulance and their own camera would have shown something different, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So, so then you decided then to go to jury trial.
That's right.
Okay. And then how long did the trial last?
The trial lasted 2.5 days. So I had to take 2.5 days off my second week of my new job to, yes.
Oh my goodness.
To fight this. So.
Yes. And were you able to introduce your audio tape that you had of the conversations? Were you able to introduce that at trial in your defense?
We actually did not introduce that into evidence. I'm not sure the reasoning why.
Oh, okay. But apparently it wasn't necessary.
Yes. No.
Okay.
No.
So who did they have testify at this trial?
The deputy that took my camera, one of the paramedics, and me.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, that's it.
That's it.
Well, that's a pretty short list.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think was the turning point in the trial for the jury?
I think it was when my attorney pointed out that being 3 feet away from somebody with holding a video camera, stopping to conduct a medical interview in front of that person, and not knowing that they were recording and asking them to stop was kind of the turning point. That only one person saw me standing outside the door, as they said, standing outside the door with a camera in my hand.
Okay, so they were testifying that you were standing.
That I was standing, and then I had a camera in my hand the entire time. And they testified that they stopped 3 feet in front of me with a camera in my hand to do a medical assessment. I don't know of any paramedic that would stop in front of someone holding a camera to conduct a medical assessment unless it was an absolute emergency.
Mm-hmm. Now, did the question ever come up, what happened to the film that you supposedly took?
It did come up a little bit. In her report, Deputy Bolner admitted to trying to go through the camera, stated that she didn't understand the camera, and put it in her squad car. So she actually did try to go through the camera. She may have deleted it that way, or she may have gone home and deleted it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because if, I guess my thought on this is that if indeed you had been 3 feet and standing and that close, the most likely evidence to prove that recollection is the tape itself.
Definitely.
And if a deputy knew that the tape was absolutely the silver bullet in the case, why would they bring it home? Why not bring it to the property room where it should go so that you can use the evidence in the case to prove the point?
That's a very good question. Another good question is, why did she try to go through the camera? Under the Ramsey County Sheriff's policy, deputies are not allowed to go through a camera. So she violated policy right there too.
Mm-hmm. And now, was she on the had she been a deputy for a while, or?
30 years.
Oh, 30 years.
Yes, yes. So she definitely should have known the policy and procedure.
And in the trial, did they talk at all about the frequency of which deputies need to review the policy and procedures of, whether or not if it's detaining people, holding evidence, bringing somebody into an ambulance, any of that kind of thing?
No, that actually did not come up.
It did not,
No.
okay. I was just wondering if that, if that was a point of contention that came up or not.
No.
Okay. Well, I bet you were fairly relieved.
I was very happy. After 16 months, I was finally exonerated for a crime that I didn't commit.
Yeah, excellent. Now I have another clip of some video that you had gotten through a data practices request. And this has to do with the dash cameras, and so that's what this video is from. And then this incident, why don't you set it up for our viewing audience, because this happened before you it was after you were charged, but before you went to trial.
This is the one where the Roseville Police Department shut off the dash cam when I was being pulled over. Is that one?
This is the one where the McDonald's one.
Yes. Oh, yes, I was going through a McDonald's drive-through, noticed a Ramsey County squad car there. I just didn't want to deal with him that night and just drove around him and headed home.
Right. And so, as a result of your decision not to buy your supper at McDonald's, you got pulled over.
I did. I got pulled over, and many squad cars arrived to assist in that.
Yes, and you were being asked, why didn't you buy anything at McDonald's? Are you guilty of something? Now, I find that a very fascinating line of questioning, because they didn't once say that you had a blinker out, that you took a wrong turn, that you forgot the signal, other than you didn't stop at the drive-thru. So let's take a look at this clip.
Minutes if you can.
Thank you.
Oh no, the next clip.
My name is Andrew.
Stand by.
Hi! Driver's license, proof of insurance, please. You bet. You pull into McDonald's like you're going to get food, and then you go around me and you decide to leave. So did you go inside and get it, or when did you get it? Excuse me? Go ahead. So did you go through the drive-thru and then go around again, or did you go inside and get it, or how'd that work? Excuse me? Your Fifth Amendment rights? Okay, well then give me your driver's license, Mr. Fifth Amendment rights. You realize the Fifth Amendment's only for use inside a court of law, correct? Okay, Andrew? Why do you need to have the right to remain silent? What did you do illegal that you feel the need to avail yourself of the right to remain silent? Got it. 2437.
2437.
Northbound right at Brady, 377 Charles George Edward. Gray Durango occupied 2 times. Can I get a second squad? The driver has told me that he's going to keep his rights to remain silent.
Second squad to Brady's on right.
47. Can you let the main per county know that I've got 2 cars? That's enough.
Copy 11, we'll take you 47 minutes.
Okay. I do not get this guy. So I stop him because I go to McDonald's to get a burger, and he drives around like he's going to get one, and then he quick zips around me and takes off out of McDonald's and decides that he's not hungry. So I pull him over because it's suspicious. Nobody's going to do that. I walk up to him, ask him for his driver's license, and he says, "I plead the fifth." And I go, "That's actually for you to decide a court of law. All I was going to do is ask you." He goes, "Why'd you stop me?" So I tell him, it's awfully suspicious. People don't usually do that. So I ask him for his driver's license, and he goes, "I have the right to remain silent. I'm going to do that." And I'm like, dude, what the, you know? So I'm like, you know what, before I start asking anything else or start looking anywhere else, this guy just started off with the total, so I don't know if he's a sovereign citizen or what. The other thing that's weird is, when I asked him where he was going, he said he was heading home. He lives on B2. He went totally past his house. So, nothing yet, but it was like he was acting so screwy. I'm like, I don't even know. I already told him to cancel. Andrew, what's the deal, man?
With what?
Okay, you realize it's it's highly unusual for someone to have the position that you're at right now, correct?
I suppose.
Okay, so why are you so oppositional for something that we would have already been done with had you not been so oppositional?
Can you make yourself more clear?
Can you make yourself more clear?
Yeah.
As far as what?
What are you talking about?
First of all, I've never had anybody claim the fifth when I ask them for their driver's license. Second of all, when I just ask somebody a couple simple questions so that I can either verify that they're not intoxicated or they're not up to something, I've never had anybody tell me that they have the right to remain silent and they're going to exercise that. Okay. Because actually, unless I've got you in custody for something, which obviously I don't, and I'm asking you questions about a specific crime.
First of all, I know I could hear that when he asked you for your driver's license and insurance, I could vaguely hear you say, it's in the glove compartment. You didn't plead the Fifth Amendment about the driver's license. Oh. You were pleading the Fifth about why you chose not to stop at the drive-thru and get a hamburger.
Exactly.
And that's not a crime.
No.
You don't have to go and buy a hamburger just because it looked like you were going to the drive-thru.
Right.
And so that's why it's very important oftentimes to have the audio and video, because you could see from this audio that you, when asked for your driver's license and your insurance, you said it was in the glove compartment. You asked if you could get it, and he clearly said, go ahead. I heard that.
Yes.
And now he's telling the other officers in front of all them, oh, you pled the Fifth when I asked you for your driver's license. That's not true.
That's not true at all.
That's exactly right. And see, so whereas maybe there might be some viewers out there when they heard earlier that you had recorded some conversations, right? Mm-hmm. And everything. This also shows that the police use the same rule.
Exactly.
That the reason that we can hear what they're saying is because they're recording all of their conversations as well.
Right.
And so they use the same rule that you were using.
Yep.
Or you're using the same law that they're using.
Yes.
Either way, you're both using the same law.
Exactly.
Yes. So let's continue on with this clip because there's a little bit more.
Is him? Okay. Can I see your license, please, ma'am? Thank you. Andrew, do you still live on County Road B2?
Yes, I do.
So you got some food in your head at home, but you went past your address? Why don't you hand that over here, ma'am?
There's more one way to get there, isn't there?
Wow. All right.
There's like 10 squad cars on
Okay.
the side. 10 squad cars.
That's totally cool. Here's my deal. I'm out here looking for drunk people, and when I have somebody immediately start with, I plead the Fifth Amendment, that's the kind of thing that gets all of us to go, really?
Yeah.
Yep. Got it. Okie doke. So that explains everything then. All right. Do you have anything going on with your license, no warrants, nothing like that? Good enough. All right. Thanks, man. That helps. Andrew, I now understand what's going on. You have a nice evening. Nope. Nope.
And so, as you see, one of the deputies there was one of the deputies involved with taking your camera.
That's right.
Ironic.
Yes.
Now, if a person is a passenger in a vehicle and they're asked for their driver's license because it's not required to be licensed to be a passenger of a car, we've had Michelle Gross on this program in the past with Citizens United Against Police Brutality. And one of the tips that she has shared with our viewers in the past is that if you are a passenger and you're being asked for your driver's license, you don't have to give your driver's license because it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement that you be licensed in order to be a passenger in a car.
That's right.
And she has given tips to our viewers on how to best approach that, you know, and to be respectful and to certainly keep your hands in plain view and no sudden movements, but you don't have to give a driver's license if you're a passenger.
No, you don't have.
Yeah.
No.
So I thought that would be an important tip to insert here since they were also asking your passenger for her driver's license as well.
Right.
Interesting. Interesting. And the fact that he was quizzing you as to why you didn't go home the way he wanted you to go home, the route he wanted you to take.
Right. Which is interesting. I mean, there's, I don't always take the straight way home. Sometimes I like to enter my parking lot from the other way because it's easier to turn into.
Yeah, there you go. Interesting. Now, I want to let folks know that you live in Little Canada, and that you have decided that this fall that you're going to be running for City Council in Little Canada, correct?
That's right.
So are you excited about this opportunity?
I am incredibly excited about this.
Excellent. Well, because I know that we have one more clip that I want to show, but I want to also say that as we get closer to the election, I want to have you come back.
Definitely.
And talk about your campaign, running for City Council of Little Canada.
I would love to.
And talking about the initiatives and the ideas that you have. And that's a whole nother show.
Yes.
But at least we can get it out here and let folks know initially, early on, that that's your plan. And they know what they can look forward to when they see your name in the paper again. It's going to be candidate for City Council, Little Canada. Excellent. Now, I want to show this next clip because it leads right into that. Involved citizens can make a difference in their community. And here, this clip is you in front of the Roseville City Council giving them some of your input on how they can better their policies and procedures in their city.
That's right.
So let's take a look at this next clip.
Henderson. I'm from Little Canada, Minnesota. I would like to bring to the attention of the council the Roseville Police policy on dash cams and how I got to finding out about this policy. On October 31st, I was stopped for having a passenger side headlight out on my vehicle. The officer initiated the stop, issued me a citation based solely on the fact that his partner had watched a YouTube video of mine in which I was stopped 9 months prior for having a driver's side headlight out that had malfunctioned and was able to be corrected by tapping on the headlight. I then submitted a Minnesota Data Practice Act request to the Roseville Police Department for the video of the stop. Upon review of the footage, I noticed that the officer had shut off the dashboard camera for 1 minute and 20 seconds, at about 4 minutes into the stop. It surprised and shocked me that an officer was able to turn a dashboard camera off and back on again during a traffic stop. I made a visit to the Roseville Police Department to seek answers to this matter. I asked to inspect a copy of the dashboard camera policy and was told it was a trade secret and that the Roseville Police Department does not give that policy out to the public. When I informed the police employee that the officer had turned off the dashboard camera during this traffic stop, his reply was, and I quote, "Yeah, okay, and?" To which I stated that a practice like that is ripe for abuse. I was once again refused the policy concerning dashboard camera use. Dashboard camera policies are neither trade secrets nor non-public policies. I had to submit another Minnesota Data Practice Act request to obtain a copy of the Roseville Police dashboard camera policy, which was finally released to me. Surprisingly, Roseville police officers are allowed to turn off dashboard cameras if they feel it would not result in the loss of critical documentary information or with verbal or written notation by the officer that the officer intends to stop recording. Many local law enforcement agencies have a much stricter policy regarding termination of a video recording by a dashboard camera. The Maplewood Police Department's policy of cessation of recording on a dashboard camera is an outstanding example. I would like to read their policy. Once activated, the MVR, which stands for Mobile Video Recorder, system should remain on until the incident has concluded. For purposes of this section, conclusion of an incident has occurred when all arrests have been made, arrestees have been transported, and all witnesses and victims have been interviewed. Recording may cease if an officer is simply waiting for a tow truck or a family member to arrive or in similar situations. I would like to ask that the Roseville City Council revisit this policy and make changes to the dashboard camera deactivation process to better suit the citizens of Roseville and to create a more transparent and accountable police department.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Would you be able to send us a copy of what you found with regard to Maplewood's policy?
Actually, what I was going to suggest is provide the information to the city manager, Mr. Trudgeon.
Sure.
And he will make sure the council gets it.
Thank you.
And also we'll refer that to the police department for reporting back to the council.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Roseville, like Maplewood, is what's called a Plan B city. And the Plan B city is run by the city manager. City manager is the one that has control over the police chief and the policies. But the city council, if they don't see any movement from the administrative end in moving forward on your request, the city council actually can pass a resolution directing the city manager to take action to review this. So that's how the process would go in Roseville if you don't see any action.
All right.
So that's how it works in a Plan B city. But I think this shows the impact, certainly that an involved citizen can have, that you have had, and that when you're elected to the City Council of Little Canada, the kind of thoughtfulness that you'll bring to that position. So I want to thank you for being on the program this evening to share your story and what you're looking at and what your future might be.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Yes. And to our viewers out there, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Off the Record News. Tune in again next week where we'll have a brand new program. Good night.